this is episode 82 and slate.
All right, welcome to the Asking Why podcast. I'm your host, Clint Davis, and this is episode 82. And I have my friend and also therapist, Eli Weinstein, with us, or Weinstein, however.
Hey, how you
Yeah,
doing? Eli Weinstein. You know what? It's a hard thing. I love my name is a long Jewish name, and Ellie's my nickname. But like Eli is confusing because it's also Eli.
that's right.
So like it's Ellie. If people call me Eli, as long as someone's calling me somewhat close to my name, I'm gonna say hey. So no, I love it.
That's right. And the
I'm
only
here.
the only interactions we've had is on reading it on social media. So
Yeah. So how the heck are you supposed to know?
yeah, the Southern boy
Your
in
name's
me
kind
is
of
like,
easy. I
Eli.
wouldn't call you Clint.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
right. That's right. So how you doing, man?
How you doing, Clint?
Good. Ellie.
So excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, man. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. I've followed you on social media and see all your posts and listen to some of your podcasts on the Dude Therapist. And so tell us about
And you're on
you.
the show. You're gonna be, we recorded with you, so I'm excited to air your episode in the coming months.
That's right.
So my name is Eli Weinstein. I'm out here in Vegas, licensed in both Nevada and in New York. Parent of two beautiful children, a boy and a girl, and married to my beautiful wife Ariella for 8 years right now.
Ariella, is that what you said?
Yeah,
That's a beautiful name.
she's a beautiful person.
Yeah,
so it goes
y'all don't
with
make
her,
it easy
you know?
on nobody, though. I mean, with the names.
We're trying to mess with everyone's head. We're like, you really need to work hard to call our name. That's what we're trying to do, you know?
Absolutely. Oh, man. Well, that's awesome. So how long have you been a therapist?
I've been a therapist about 8-9 years. Even though COVID kind of threw off my numbers, so maybe it's like 5. I have no idea anymore.
Yeah.
But probably around 7 to 8 years I've been a therapist. And I specialize in relationships and couples, anxiety and parenting are my 3 main focuses that I enjoy working with and specialize in. But of course, everyone and anyone walks into your office. So I'm open to working with most people if they're struggling and they need help and they're willing to ask for it
Yeah.
and come and show up and do the work. I'm there for it.
And so you have your own private practice?
Yeah, I have my own private practice in both states. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And you do mostly Zoom and stuff for New York and then in person?
Mostly Zoom in Nevada also because
Oh,
most
yeah?
people aren't asking for in person right now. I think the flexibility that we feel as therapists, as well as what they're feeling as clients, I think is nice.
Yeah.
And hopefully when I make millions after this podcast airs, because you're a famous person,
Yeah, right.
and Oprah calls me, then I'll have money to be able to make an office or a center or something like that,
Yeah.
in my home. Soon to be supervised in Nevada, so I can hire people underneath me and start branching out and helping more people under my name.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's much needed. There's especially for men, I think in mental health, I think it's such a need, and I think you do such a great job of being authentic and honest and open with who you are and kind of your family and your life and
Yeah.
and that's so needed. Men need a balance of somebody who's strong and emotional and a leader and all those things, but to see it in a healthy way. And so tell me
Yeah.
tell me your story a little
Yeah.
bit. Kind of how'd you become a therapist, or however much of your story
Sure.
you wanna tell.
I'm an open book. Honestly, I don't have that many skeletons in my closet. Someone asked me recently, like, if you ever got bigger, let's say social media wise or famous or whatever as a therapist or a mental health professional writing books and stuff like that, are you afraid someone's going to find something out? I'm like, no, I'm a white Jewish boy from Long Island. I did nothing. My parents didn't let me do anything. So I'm an Orthodox Jewish guy from Long Island, from New York, born and raised. And I always had a sensitivity and empathy for others. My mom used to tell me stories that I used to cry when I saw a homeless person or people who were deaf or blind or disabled or with disabilities, and it would break my heart. So I always knew I wanted to be in the helping profession, whatever that meant. And of course, doctor was on the table. I didn't want to be in school that long, didn't have the patience. I have ADHD, which is what led me to go to therapy. ADHD, which then led to some anxiety. Maybe they're hand in hand or one and the same, depending on the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found this beautiful world of someone who was in my corner, giving me love and compassion, with no judgment, who wasn't my parent, who wasn't above me, but was with me
Right.
through life. And there was a day when I'm like, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this. And I always was that kid at recess who was the one in the corner listening to other people talk about their problems. Usually it was women, girls at the time. They were, high school girls or whatever it was. And I always just found that easy ability to connect with people, listen to people, and be compassionate and caring to people.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to be a psychologist because I didn't want to be in school again. ADHD, didn't think I had the patience to be in school for 5 to 7 years. So I went the social work route. So I was in school for 2 to 3 years. And now I'm a LCSW doing the same work as a psychologist. So who cares what your license is and that title?
Yeah.
If you're helping people, you're helping people. And that's my belief, really.
Yeah, it's good, man. Yeah, it's crazy because the average person listening, they don't know the difference between all that stuff anyway.
No.
Mental health professional, LPC, LCSW, psychologist. But boy, our boards care about it. And, we want to respect and be ethical within the scope. But the average consumer just wants help. They just want somebody who will listen to them, help them, direct them in the right way, give them some tools and resources.
Which is, by the way, not to say in a bad way. I know we talked about this before, before we got on the show, but the wellness world feeds off that, right? So unfortunately, because people are looking for help and because the societal boards that run our world as professionals and licensed professionals sometimes pushes people away from getting that treatment because it's sometimes so difficult, so red taped, so disconnected, sometimes depending on the person and the state that they're in, the boards they're in, and the accessibility of just being able to get licensed, right? I have people call me from California. It is so hard to be licensed in California from another state. It is so difficult. I have to go back to school. I might have to take another test. I'm done with that. I've done that already. I've gone through two licensing tests and my master's degree. I don't want to do that again. So what about the people in California who there's not enough, or they find a vibe from someone else, right? So I think the wellness world feeds off that and sometimes can be hurtful because it's people who are vulnerable just looking for help.
Yeah.
So if you are looking for help, make sure it's someone who actually cares about you and isn't trying to gouge you for money, but actually has some connection or helpful guidance and not just a life experience,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, people need to know what to look out for, and I think you're right. It's on both ends. It can be red tape from the licensing board or from the control of them or wanting all the CEUs or all these things, which, on one hand is great because you have accountability, and on the other hand, it makes it very difficult for anybody to get it. And then on the other hand, you have anybody who can come out and say, hey, I can help you with this, and I've experienced allergies, and so now I'm going to tell you everything to do. And that can be very dangerous. And so I think for the consumer, I think that, finding that middle ground is difficult, man.
Yeah, but also I would just add to that idea is that we also have to be cognizant that people are really, hopefully we have to have the best benefit of the doubt. People are really trying to help. And yeah, it is hard to keep your CEUs. It is expensive that people don't really talk about, that we have to make that much more money to be able to pay thousands of dollars to get trainings and all that stuff. But on top of it, during COVID, the borders were gone. Anyone could work with anyone from any state.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. People were finding help.
Yeah, it was great.
They found someone who helped them. And then within a month, it's like, sorry, no more. So are we really truly caring about people or, the money that's tied to the states?
It was very,
that's a bigger
we could do a whole podcast on that for sure. All of the therapists and counselors that listen to this definitely know what we're talking about.
They all know. Yeah. They all know. Everyone knows.
Yeah, it's difficult, man. So tell me, so you just empathetically, you had that gift of empathy that kind of was in your family. How did your faith play in? How did that play into maybe counseling or, looking to be a helper?
Yeah, well, I think, and I'm not speaking for all religions here. I can only speak for mine. I think as an Orthodox Jew, I was always brought up in a world that was giving. So we are very focused on charity and having an open home, being caring, right? Being loving, love thy neighbor, looking out for the less than, right? It's in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it talks about that the focus is widowers and converts, right?
Mm-hmm.
The outside people who might not feel comfortable, we have to focus on more, and God cares about them more than others because they're downtrodden and need help. So if I have a privilege or am able to give, I need to be able to give. I have to give my most. And I also grew up in a home that was very open and giving. My house was open. I mean, people were just in our house
That's awesome.
all the time, always. Guests, friends coming home. My home was open. And even my community, there's some Jewish organizations that are for people who have physical and mental disabilities. And we would have like a weekend where they would come every couple of months, and we would host them for meals and be part of our community and feel welcome. So to me, I think it's kind of ingrained to help and to give and to care.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean everyone's like that, but that's how I felt, and I took that very, very seriously.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So what was when did you meet your wife?
I met my wife when I was working for a Jewish youth organization that kind of gave teenagers a safe place to ask, search, wonder, question, and have fun. She was on the West Coast, I was on the East Coast, and we were going to do a summer program together touring Israel. It got canceled because there was a war, but we had a lot of trainings together, and I
Just
I
a little
went over
war.
there was a war in Israel, so we couldn't go. It had to get canceled for safety of the kids and the camps and the staff. And we had like a lot of meet-ins and crossovers. And I said to my friend, like, I got to date this girl. Like, I need to date this girl. She said no about 3 times because she thought I was too cool for her, which is not true. I am a nerd and a geek, and that's okay. But I have ADHD, so I walked away in the middle of a conversation. I'm like, oh, I thought she was done. I'm like, oh, hey, you, squirrel.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my gosh, this guy thinks he's too cool for me.
Right.
And then we kind of kept reconnecting, and then she finally said yes, and we married. Love it.
And y'all been married
Very,
how
very
long?
happy. 8 years.
8 years. Okay. And your daughter's how old? I know you said at the beginning.
She's almost 4, and my son just turned 1.
Okay, that's right. You had a little one. That's right. That's right. Because when we tried to get this together last year, you're right in the middle.
He was
of
being
all
born.
that.
We were moving. It was a lot of stuff.
Oh man, how's he doing?
Oh, he's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He doesn't sleep well, but he's a sweetheart.
Oh yeah, I wish that changed. I have 2 boys, 5 and 8, and they still don't sleep. So we were laughing about both of them. I had to go before coming over here. One of them had fever, and then the other one needed to come home from school, and so changing the whole day to go pick one up and bring the other one and keep the other one. And we were playing, me and the 5.5-year-old were playing Nerf guns upstairs, while he's coughing his head off and snotty and just mass chaos, man. But it's the life. It's great. All right. So one of the posts I told you I wanted to talk to you about was you posted a Jordan Peterson quote, and I'm going to butcher it. So let me look back at it unless you know it off the top of your head. Aim to be good, pray for happiness.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk a little bit as a coach, as a therapist, as a dad, as a man of faith. What's kind of your take on the world we live in and people's desire for happiness, and why did that quote hit you?
I don't know. I don't know what my mindset was at the time of hearing that. I don't agree with everything he might say, depending on the day.
Wait, if you post a Jordan Peterson quote, that means you agree with everything that he says.
No joke.
Ellie.
Someone told me to take it down.
Oh, I saw
I got a
went
message
and looked,
from
and it was like
7 people. I got private messages from 7 people saying, you have to take it down. Jordan Peterson's a racist son of a gun.
Yeah.
Terrible human being. He hates women, all these things. I'm like, I don't know what he said about those specific things. I don't know everything he said. This specific quote that I heard him say that came up on TikTok, Reel, whatever social media snippet of his speech, this line I like. I like the line. It could have been a priest or a rabbi said it. It could have been my mom could have said it. I like the idea. I like the line. It hit me in my heart.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that as a whole, we are striving so much to be happy, and we forget to be a good person because we get so siloed or myopic or focused on my happiness that we forget other people and forget to be good.
Yeah.
We need to strive to be good human beings. And with that doesn't mean we're always going to be happy, but we got to pray that we're going to be happy and pray for happiness, because doing good doesn't always equal happiness. Sometimes it's hard. It's tough. It's rough. It's dirty. Sometimes it's down in the grime of the world to do good. Sometimes it's not enjoyable.
Yeah. Many times. Right.
But it's still good work.
Yeah.
So praying for happiness, I think, is better than the idea of, it's like the thing that people say now is, the Constitution didn't say that you're getting happiness. It's pursuit of happiness,
Yeah.
right? It's like the thing everyone talks about. One of my favorite movies, Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith,
That's a
I
great
think is a
movie.
beautiful, beautiful movie. And I think everyone should watch. The idea of, he was poor and was running from interview to interview, working his butt off, and he has fulfillment in something that he put his hard work in, and that is happiness.
Hmm.
Not millions of dollars, not these other things. So whatever it was, I think at that moment in my life when I pushed, I think it was a couple of months ago or a year or so ago when I posted that, it was this idea of, don't forget to try your best to be good, do good, and help people. Um, and don't forget to pray for joy and happiness, because we also need that too. And sometimes it's out of our control, and we need to get a little extra help from other forces.
Yeah. So why do you think doing good leads to what do you think it leads to then? If not happiness, right? What do you see it leading to?
Well, I think there's like two ideas here, right? I think there's also fulfillment, right? I think that fulfillment is a sense of whole, or a sense of connection to something. It doesn't always equal what we always view as a smile of happiness or elation or
Hmm.
joy. But fulfillment is a total different feeling of maybe a subcategory of happiness,
Yeah.
or a different avenue or angle of happiness. Because happiness is a very general term, it's very vague.
Hmm.
So I think that being good or doing good creates fulfillment. It doesn't mean that we are laughing and happy and, waking up in the morning with a pep in our step,
Yeah.
but it can drive us. It make us feel that we are worth something, or that our life is worth it, because we are doing good for the world and for the people in our circles, in our life.
Right. So you would say that's like purpose.
Yeah, I think doing good can create purpose and fulfillment. It doesn't always equal happiness. I
Yeah.
think happiness does come with doing good, but it doesn't always equate or equal that automatically. And I also think it's our perspective, right? We can do a lot of good, feel fulfilled, and then say that wonderful statement of, this is not enough.
Hmm.
I need to do more. So sometimes, if I'm going to read into what Jordan Peterson said, um, as someone who doesn't know anything that he thinks in his head, was the idea of, I think, also praying for happiness to me is praying for being content.
Yeah.
So I can do a lot of good, but I also need to pray for me to feel that this good is good, or
Yeah.
that I am good enough because I did as much as I can. And sometimes I think that's also, I think in the quote or the little snippet that he said was that we're going, 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 and we can do good, but don't feel happy or fulfilled or joy because we're doing the next thing or trying to do more and more. And
Yeah.
I think also the prayer is that I can sit back and go, okay, I'm happy I did good today.
Yeah, it makes me go two directions. Like one is just the neurology of happiness and dopamine, and where we're at. I know this is talked about a lot, but just the culture of people who have grown up being miserable, having trauma, being abused, being neglected, being disconnected, broken attachment, all the things you know about. And so what we've done is we've instant gratification, and whether that's pornography or drugs or alcohol or the pursuit of just generic happiness, right? I watched a show and laughed at it. I like some of those things are bad in and of themselves, but not all the things that make us happy are bad in and of themselves. But our heart posture towards those things and why we're doing those things, right, is the meaning and the purpose that you're talking about. It's like it's the
Yeah.
why. And
Yeah. I was gonna make a video about this today, and I still will, because I don't know when this episode is coming out, and there's two different,
yeah,
two
Friday.
different content. So I'll do it today so I can get a beat on it.
Yeah, please do it. I'll share it and then I'll.
LeBron, LeBron James just passed, right?
Yeah, was it Will
The
Chamberlain?
Will,
Yeah,
no, Will Chamberlain was the most points per game. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar
yeah,
for the
that's right.
most points ever scored by an NBA player. And there's a famous picture going around that everyone's exploding, is that everyone's on their phones, except for Phil Knight, who is the creator of Nike,
Hmm.
is sitting there, locked in, present, in this moment of history of the NBA, that he has seen hundreds of thousands of he created Michael Jordan, like him and
Yeah, yeah,
Jordans. That's him.
yeah.
It's freaking him. He created Jordans.
Yes.
not Michael Jordan, right? So he's seen and has been to so many games, and he sat there with his phone in his pocket and experienced.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't instant gratification. That wasn't for a post on Instagram. That wasn't for his website. It was just him experiencing life. And I think we forget that. And that's real fulfillment, is actually being present and being in the moment. It's why, to tie it into religion, I know this is a lot more, we're talking more religious stuff here. It's why prayer is so impactful, right? It's why I don't like, and I've been to synagogue where people use their cell phones and they have the prayer book on their cell phone.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous because you're automatically going to get distracted. Disconnect from this.
Yeah.
Get a book, read a prayer book, be in the moment.
Yeah.
Don't use the technology,
right?
Because that's what we're trying not to do that here. We're trying to be something above that, and more simple. So that picture's going around a lot now. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Phil Knight's a genius." No, he's not. He's just simple living his life,
Yeah, it is funny though, the correlation that he owns Nike and runs a company and is successful, and I think part of that success being long term is learning to be present. You can get away with it here and there, but I think in marriage and parenting, especially in work, being present, is so important to the long term success of whatever it is you're doing. And you're right with prayer; it's so true. We have to pull away. Jesus pulled away. We have to have the time to be with God and sit and listen and receive from him. And we have to do that with each other, and we have to do that with our spouses and our kids. And again, it goes back to happiness isn't always about us, right? And consuming and getting. Have you heard that? I think I've talked about it on here before, but it's a Jewish rabbi about fish love. Have you heard that?
I think you mentioned it on my podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have a chance to look into it, but I would love to hear it again.
Yeah.
So I can actually remind myself and actually look into it, because I love the idea. I remember I loved the idea.
That's right. So it's a Jewish rabbi, and he's walking, down the street, and there's a little pond, and there's a guy fishing, and he says, "Oh, I see you, you're fishing." The guy says, "Yes, I love fish." And the rabbi says, "Oh, you love fish. So you saw the fish, you caught the fish, you killed the fish, and now you're eating it." He says, most of the world's love is fish love, is I see something that I want that's going to make me feel good, that's going to be fulfilling, and we call it love. When love is really service, it's giving. It's like you said in the very beginning, it's caring for someone else, looking for the downtrodden, the one who's missing out, the guy at your work who feels disconnected and unincluded, just those things. And it's crazy, but like, God designed us, right? And so it's our neurochemistry goes that direction too. We get serotonin. We release the right hormones when we do those type of things. And when we do the things that aren't good for us, we release these hormones that are never satisfying and that are addictive and that are, they feel really, really amazing. But man, you got to have more and more and more, and you never catch up.
Yeah. And I think that, unfortunately, as someone who specializes in relationships and work with people all the time on their relationships, I think a lot of us, myself included, probably at depending on the day, become very selfish within our relationships of what you can do for me versus what I can do for you. And people kind of view that, unfortunately, as being submissive, right? Of like, what I can do for you? What do you mean what I can do for you?
Yeah.
Who are you? I'm not your slave. I'm not your, I'm not below you. But even equals can do things for each other. It's called caring.
Yeah.
It's called being kind. It's called being a partner, right? Partners share responsibility. And I think if we look at relationships as that way, even parents, right? I know that I have people in my life that if my daughter, who is almost 4 years old, doesn't give them the love that they want, they now don't treat her the way that she needs to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying they're abusive or hurtful. They're removed.
Yeah.
So it's like a tit for tat. Like, well, you didn't give me what I need, so I'm not going to give you a 3-year-old attention.
Yeah.
Right? That's selfish. Yeah. That's focused on what you can give to me. And if I don't get that first, sorry, you're not going to be in the picture.
Yeah, and that teaches kids that we're responsible for all the adults in our lives' feelings,
other people's needs.
Yeah, and if
that
we don't
creates
meet those
a lot
first,
of attachment issues.
Yeah.
Right. Anxious attachment. That's not. That's what all it's about. That's partly connected to that.
Definitely. Yeah, that's trauma, you know, and no, it might not be abusive outright, but it's definitely, I think, traumatic. You know, my definition for
It is.
trauma is anything that's not nurturing. Now, that doesn't mean every non-nurturing thing gives you PTSD, but
Yeah.
if we go kind of back theologically to Eden, it's like, you know, God intended us to have shalom, right? Harmony, peace, connection, intimacy, no death, no dying, no abuse, no neglect, none of those things. And so that's the ideal. And anything that's not what God intended for us is traumatic. It's not what we're meant to experience and receive. You know, it's kind of death is traumatic. You know, grief is traumatic. These are part of the human condition now, but they were never the plan. And so
Yeah.
I think we've done a really huge disservice in minimizing people's trauma and experience, you know.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, some people are afraid to talk this way when it comes to mental health and therapy because they're like, how could you conflate religion and mental health?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a balance that we can create. Like I can have perspectives that guide my life, a value base, and translate it into a mental health perspective that doesn't have the same words as, let's say, Jesus or God,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, Judaism or Christianity or Catholicism or, you know, whatever religion, or, you know, Islam. It doesn't have to be. I'm just picking the three biggest ones.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Buddhism. You can take whatever you want. Take
We're
any
not
ism
leaving
you'd like.
anybody out, okay? We just can't list
Every
all
ism you'd
1,000.
like, except for Scientology. We'll leave that one out, or any cult.
We're canceled
right?
now.
But right, that's it. They're gonna come after us. Leia Ramini, protect me.
That's right.
But we can take that as a value based. I remember once I had someone call me and said, "You're Jewish." I said, "Yeah." Is that going to dictate your therapy? And I said, "It dictates me. Like I am Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to preach and try to convert you as a therapist. I know the difference and the boundary, but myself, I run on that mental energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought process. That's where I think. That's where I come from. It doesn't mean that now I'm going to be like, Holy Spirit, let me convert you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I have a perspective that's different than yours, but I can still be a caring, loving human being without that blinding me from helping someone. And I think people get afraid when someone writes on their like account or on their social media, on their Psychology Today, religious, you know, and they're like, oh, sorry, nope,
I'm
can't
out.
do it.
Yeah.
I'm out. Now, if that's not for you, I totally respect that. But it doesn't, I really hope the right therapist and a good therapist is learning the distinction of where they tap into themselves and that boundary of, you know, not sharing always your perspective if someone doesn't want to take that, you know?
Yeah.
I remember once I had a client who was Jehovah's Witness and he tried to convert me every session. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Oh, I believe you.
Literally,
I believe you.
every session he was preaching, trying to convert me.
Yep.
And I said to him, I said, dude, this is not your corner to preach. This is a place for you to get help.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand that. It was very hard for him.
I'm sure.
It didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't end it. He couldn't deal with it. He's like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to talk.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's a great, but I mean, wow, what a great analogy to therapy in general, because when you talk about Christianity and therapy or being Jewish and a therapist, it's like the idea that we can separate any of that out perfectly is so crazy. So even if you don't have a religion, right? Even if you're a therapist who doesn't post, oh, I'm a Christian or oh, I'm Jewish or, you know, whatever. Like I don't have a hat, so I can't, you know, they can't just call me on it. You can't get around it, right? But the reality is I should just, you know, I should have like one of those really big gold cross necklaces and then I'll just wear
a huge
that.
cross, or you should just wear the priest thingy, you know, the
Exactly.
And it should be, and you should have like the therapist in the middle or something on the collar.
I could do like psychology symbol on the middle of the white.
That'd be so freaking cool.
We could start selling them when you go in, you know, anyway.
Tangent. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. My point is that from a worldview, right, of somebody saying, oh, you're Jewish, and so therefore are you going to put that on me in session, right? It's like as if a person who's completely atheist isn't putting that on you in session. Like you can't separate out being a human being in the room. And so of course you're like you're coming from some place of morality and judgment and health. none of us should ever be putting that on someone else and forcing that on someone. And that's really just the go-to. So whether you're a Christian or a Jew or whatever, most of us who's healthy are going to say, yeah, I mean, I have this perspective. I'm going to come from this. And if you want that, I'm going to give it to you. But at the same time, it's not my job to tell you what to think and feel and believe, even with other Christians or even with other Jewish members of our community, or even with, like, there's such a variant on that. However, I think it comes from the trauma of people seeing it done poorly, so I can't throw the world out and say, oh, well, you shouldn't judge us for being Christian. Cause I mean, I've seen more unhealth in Christian counseling or religious counseling than I have health. And so I get it. I have empathy for that fear.
Yeah. I will also add, I remember I once had a client who came from an ultra Orthodox background, was not Orthodox anymore, wasn't even practicing Judaism, was culturally connected to Judaism. He was Jewish, felt connected to whatever that meant to him, and was outwardly gay, was gay. And he was afraid to tell me, even though I knew, because it was in his file, he filled out paperwork and wrote like a whole blurb about himself. And even though he talked about his boyfriends, he never said he was gay for 6 months working with me, because he was afraid because of how his family reacted, because I represented a Jew to him. He was now, oh, shoot, this is the same Jew, right? Which is not true. And I also think that this same rule that you're saying goes for therapy in general. Not just because you have letters after your name and just because you have a licensure doesn't make you a good person.
Right.
Same thing with doctors, same thing with lawyers, same thing with any profession. Just because you went to grad school and you have education and you have a license and you have a private practice doesn't mean that you're good at what you do. So people have this view of therapy. Like, I had this one experience with a therapist. Therapy sucks.
Yep.
All therapists are the worst.
Yep. Yes.
I would say give it a try, right? Because it could be a bad experience. Same thing with a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Just because one boyfriend or girlfriend cheated with you doesn't mean that every boyfriend or girlfriend is going to cheat with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's just not how it works, right? So I think the idea of generalizing, well, I had one religious therapist and they tried to preach to me and convince me that this was the right way. Every single therapist has biases. Yeah. Every therapist. I remember I had one of my first years in grad school, I had a teacher who made us write on a piece of paper everything that we would never want to work with as a therapist. And people are writing, sex offenders and pedophilia and criminals and, intense mental health like schizophrenia, suicidal. Everyone was writing their things. And so she had everyone get up and say what they want, what their list was. I think it was 2 to 5 things. And she said, okay, throw it out, rip it up. She says, don't you ever do that, because you can't control who comes to your office. Now, you can leave your own stuff at the door, and when they leave, take a freaking shower and get over it.
Yep.
That's what she said to us. She's like, you cannot bring your bias of what you see other people as to dictate how you help. It's not your job. It is their job as a client to let you in so they can let you know what they need help with.
Yep, I agree.
And I remember sitting there going, oh, dang.
It's tough.
My first day of school, I'm like, now this teacher she was terrible. Otherwise, she read she talked about her sex life in class. It was weird.
Again, one of those tells that you can have a master's degree or a doctorate and teach and not be a healthy person.
Yeah, she had no boundaries. It was inappropriate. But that thing alone, I will never forget.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Jewish person. I work with Jews who don't live a life that I live as a Jew. Who cares? It's not my job. I'm not their rabbi. I'm not their spiritual guide, and I'm not their, go-to person.
Yeah.
And if they want to talk about it, I'm there to talk about it. And if they don't, it's not my business.
Yeah. But
I think people are afraid. People are afraid when people are religious in some way or another as a therapist.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the same thing. I think you're right. And I like I said, I empathize with their fear, but not everybody's like that in all of those categories. And I think for the person who's listening who has that fear, I think from a therapeutic standpoint, it's like, yeah, so get healthy about that, because that's a you issue, and it might be right. You might have been burned, but your job is to heal from that and not have that cognitive distortion of overgeneralizing and black and white thinking, because you're going to stay stuck and miss out on the healthy, loving people out there who want to genuinely support you because of one person or a parent or an ex-spouse or whatever. And although trauma is real and we have to process it and we experience it, I think we got to help people as a society better move out of that victim seat into personal responsibility. So tell me that, what do you think, what do you see the swing in therapy from, children to be seen, not heard, to, children should run the house and have, be emoted at all times and never cry and always be taken care of and comforted. What balance do you find in your life, whether clinically or personally or whatever?
Yeah, please. I love that question. There's a recent person I collaborated with. Her name is Dr. Jodi Carrington. She wrote a book, Be Seen, I think, or something of that nature, something with seen. I think one of the things that we do as therapists, hopefully well, is let people be seen, right? Is help people be seen in a way that's them. And I think that as parents, I think that there's a balance as well, right? Back up for a second about the power of a therapist is that we are giving someone a healthy interaction with a human. We are trying to model what healthy relationships are. Not all therapy is, how does it make you feel? Let me tell me all your dark, deep, like this morning at a therapy session, we just chatted as two friends. And that's what he needed from me this morning. Mm-hmm. Two people having a conversation about life and family and perspectives and opinions. So we have to do the same thing for our kids, right? We have to help them be seen and respected. We have to help them grow as what it means to have healthy relationships and also what it means to have healthy emotions. So yeah, you better cry. You better get angry. You better be happy. Those are things that need to happen on a daily basis. But how do you deal with that, right? So we're not going to say, go to a corner, shut up and get out of here. That's the bad extreme. And we can't say, feel everything and emote no matter how it is, even if it's inappropriate. Mm-hmm. Life is about balance. There are good times and not the best times to express, right? Just like you don't laugh at a funeral. It's inappropriate, right? And but you can cry at a wedding, whatever. Those are happy tears. But even though people laugh at funerals, because people make funny jokes about death and get uncomfortable. So no judgment on that. But there are good times and bad times to express, and we need to model that. And we also need to realize that we make mistakes and that we're human. So that if I make a mistake, I'm going to apologize to my kid if I snap and yell at my kid inappropriately or wrongly, and it makes them upset, scared, or feel unsafe. I need to make sure that I recover and repair that.
Yep.
Because that's what healthy relationships are. It's not deal with your emotions, get out of my face.
Right.
It's let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. Let's sit with it.
Yeah.
My daughter cries multiple times a day because she's 3. My son takes a toy from her. She gets upset. My daughter wants a certain food and I thought she's something else, right? There's so many reasons why a kid will cry.
Yeah.
But we need to help our kids there's 3 S's that are so important for children and for parents: safety, security, and being seen, right? So safety is physical, security is emotional, and being seen is respected for who they are, entirety of what they are that day, in that moment, in that place that they're in.
That's awesome. I like those. I'm totally stealing that. You
got to steal it from that. That's Dan Siegel and Tina Bryson. That's not
right.
me. That's Tina Bryson, Dan Siegel.
No Drama Discipline and Whole Brain Child and Yes Brain. All that stuff's so good. Those are the best books. They saved my life parenting for sure.
I agree with you. And if you want, Clint, even though we're recording, I'm colleagues and friends with Tina. Just shoot me an email or text me. I'm more than happy to connect you to Tina. She is a wonderful person.
Yeah, I saw you had Dr. Delahook on, and I love her, and she's kind of a backdoor connection.
Email me, Clint. Yeah. Email me.
Yeah.
Look at anyone. I would love to help connect you to anyone.
Yeah.
I know my podcast isn't, millions and billions of followers. I hope it is one day. But if my ability is to connect other people to people that they admire because I was able to get through and just send an email and get an answer, I would be very, very fulfilled in the work that I do. Yes. So please ask.
Same here. Yeah, I saw I'd had Dr. Delahook on last year, and then her new book came out, and I was like, man, I got to have you back on. So I'm trying to work around her schedule. there's some awesome people doing some awesome work, and I love that you post a lot of their stuff and are connected on your podcast with that. So, the thing about millions of viewers too, I mean, this is another tangent, but the thing I love about our podcast style and what you do and what I do is like the people who are listening are genuinely tuned in. You know what I mean? Like they're listening to something they have to listen to, and people take notes on, and they're getting clarity and help and direction. And so, yeah, I mean, there's murder mystery podcast or, silly joke podcast,
which are great,
or whatever.
Serial killer podcast. It's fun.
If that's for you. Yeah. So, but they have millions and millions of views, and it's like, I can't get anybody to listen to a mental health podcast. And that's the one thing they need to be dealing with. Any thoughts? I don't know what your time is. What you got to go by one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, I have till 15.
Okay,
15.
Gotcha. What do you think? I was going to tell you. So you said the 3 S's. So say those again for everybody. Safety.
So it's safety, security, and seen.
Got it.
Right. I think there are 5 S's in total in the book.
Yeah.
But to me, and in the book itself, and a lot of the parenting that I do and the expertise that I kind of work with a lot of people with, those are the biggest 3.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're helping someone feel safe in their physical self. That means their body. That means their atmosphere, their environment, their relationships with parents and their kids, siblings, in their house, with food, clothes, right? The basic needs, Maslow's basic foundational needs, right? And then you have safety and security is the idea of emotions and feeling that you can be your full self emotionally without being judged, yelled at, put down, disgusted, ashamed, or guilty for feeling.
Yeah,
right?
And I would say also trying on different selves, right? The security aspect of that emotionally is not, because I think, let me jump on that just for a second. I think
Please.
One of the problems or questions I have for you and things that I see is that movement of, be yourself, be who you are. And if anybody's offended by that or doesn't support that or doesn't validate that, then they're wrong and that's abusive. And so how do you get around, right? How do we work with that with children who don't know who they are yet, who haven't even hit puberty yet? And how do we teach them that I see you, or you're secure in trying that on? I'm not bringing you shame. I'm not going to condemn you. I'm not going to judge you. But at the same time, hold loosely to things that we know are either morally or behaviorally unhealthy for them.
So just so I can answer in a smart way, in a better way, are you asking from a sexual identification question?
No, I'm not.
Are you asking from a behavioral child perspective?
I'm not trying to touch on that.
No, I'm just asking so I can answer either way as honest and real as possible.
Any and all of that is a good question.
Okay, great. So I think the biggest thing is that there is a push in the world today because of either pressures of society or certain groups and viewpoints that when a 4 to 8-year-old says, I want to be this, that we now have to jump through hoops to respect that. I think there's a way to respect it and also give a kid room to grow. When I was a kid, I pretended to be a dog when my dad came home, and I would bark at the door and I would, wag my tushy and tail and run around. I can't believe I did that, to be honest. My parents told me a story of I'm so embarrassed. I'm such a weirdo, but I was playing a dog. I love dogs. I wanted a dog. I was behaving like a dog.
My kids do it
Kids
all the
behave
time.
like dinosaurs, right? Kids behave like dinosaurs. They roar. My daughter pretends she's a cat and licks her hand, right? All these things. We need to embrace the silliness and joy of being a kid. And we also have to remember that they're kids. We can't expect them to be adults. Now, what about behaviors, right? So when a kid's like, oh, just let them be kids, the kid's screaming and yelling and cursing. No, there's just because someone is who they want to be and living their truth. I hate when people say that. Live your truth. This is my truth. Yes, it might be your truth, but it might not be okay to behave that way in certain atmospheres.
As if you're the only person in the world, right?
Exactly. Right. So I love that you feel it's okay to scream at people because it's your truth. No, it's not. It's not nice. Right. We also have to not want to create chaos just because it's people's truths.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go start piercing your body and do things, all power to you. I might not do that for myself. If that's your truth and you want to get plastic surgery to turn your eyes into lizard eyes and split your tongue and turn into a Barbie with plastic surgery, okay, that's your truth. Go have fun. But when it comes to children, they don't know what they want yet because they're learning, they're experiencing, they're trying, they're figuring it out. And let's be honest, I'll call out adults for a second. We don't know who the freak we are either.
Amen.
I'm in my 30s. I am just getting comfortable with myself, my atmosphere, my attitude, my perspectives, my thought processes. I've had 20 something years on my daughter. So if I can't expect myself to know what I want, and I'm still figuring it out and learning day to day, because humans are forever evolving. We cannot be static. And if we view someone as static, they decide something one day and they're locked into that forever, we are stunting them, we are hurting them, and we are doing a huge destructive disservice to a kid who says, I want to be this. Okay, forever, that's it. We're changing, we're adjusting, right? But there are certain things that we also as adults have a better perspective on because we've been through it. We've seen what is behaviorally okay. And it's not always a societal issue. It's not always the patriarchy. It's not always, the government trying to control us. Sometimes yelling and screaming in public is not a good behavior.
Yeah.
Does it mean that there's a healthy way to deal with it? Yeah. Does it mean that your kids allowed to do whatever the heck they want because they want to? No. We have to, again, model healthy behavior for them to grow up, to be successful with their emotions, with their feelings and their thoughts, to feel safe, to be respected, yet learn the smart balance of when and how to utilize their beautiful power of themselves.
It's good.
And that takes a lot of practice and a lot of patience, and a lot of trial and error.
And a lot of work, as parents. I think it takes, I think those are the beautiful things that I think most of our society misses out on, though. It goes back to happiness. Let's dovetail this. It's like, it's really hard to sit down with my son and have a conversation. Literally this morning, we're on the way to school, and there's a guy in front of us on a motorcycle, not a Harley, but more of a crotch rocket. And he's like, he's like 3 car lengths up ahead, and we're going to turn left into the school, and the guy's just like, I mean, it's so loud, and he's just sitting there just throttling. And my son's like, he's kind of century kid, so he doesn't like loud noises anyway. And he's like, although he's loud, he's like, why is he doing that? And I'm like, well, buddy, I was like, why do you think? And so we get in this little conversation, and I'm like, yeah, bud, sometimes people don't know how to love themselves and don't like themselves very much. And so in order to feel good about themselves, they have to be loud, and they have to get attention, and they want everybody to look at them and see them, and they think that's cool, So I don't know exactly why he's doing that, but he's definitely not doing that because something's wrong with his engine, and so he's, then he's driving in front of us, and the guy's like just swerving all over the place and kind of showing off. And so he's like, he's doing it again. And we just had this kind of heart to heart conversation. And I was like, that guy needs some love. He needs some attention. But he doesn't probably know how to get it in the right way. And so we have these little conversations, and that took time, and it took effort, and it took thought. And I'd much rather have just been listening to music, to some degree, and getting ready for my workday. But those are the things and the life lessons and the moments that have purpose and bring joy into my life, at least in clients that I talk to. But man, they're so easy to skip over.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that it's those small moments that we can really connect with our kids. And yes, I am here to listen to my daughter talk, those moments of like understanding her and growing to know her for what she wants, not what I think she needs to be or what I expect her to be. If my daughter wants to be a ridiculous kid and dance like a silly lady in the middle of ballet class and shake her little booty while everyone else is doing, calm movements, power to her, right? But like, I'm not going to let her get naked in the class.
Right. And at some point, if it's going to get her kicked out of the class, right, you're going to have a conversation about when.
And that's not her truth.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, oh, that's my kid just likes to get naked. Okay. So they can't do certain things. It doesn't mean something's wrong with them, right? Let's not diagnose and say something's crazy or wrong with someone. But there's appropriate and inappropriate. Now, the problem we get into, and I think this is a big hot topic, is who decides.
Yeah.
Right?
That goes back to licensure, right? Like Christian counseling, Jewish counseling. Who gets to decide what is moral?
I think that it's an individual, family, personal thing.
Yep.
If I think that this is inappropriate, I don't want this in my life, I get to decide that. Now, of course, we have government laws and all these things. I remember, and again, I'm going to say this caveat. I don't agree with everything this person says. Ben Shapiro was talking with Russell Brand on Russell Brand's podcast. I happen to find Russell Brand's podcast pretty interesting.
Dude, the other day I told somebody, why is it that I like trust Russell Brand's source of news more than I do any other news source? Like
he gives a full range of everything. Yeah. He doesn't he's like talked about everything.
I'm like, who would have thought Russell Brand would be a person that I'm going to listen to?
No idea. I can't believe it. He struggles with sobriety and he started with that and then got into everything else.
Yeah.
Also, he has a British accent, so we kind of trust him more.
Exactly. Sounds smart.
Clint, no joke. I say this all the time. If I had a British or Australian or South African accent, I'd be famous already. I'm telling you, it's just the accent. But no, all joking aside, him and Ben Shapiro talked about something that I think is a very important concept, is the idea of if we lived in a siloed world where I focused on what worked for me and respected you for what worked for you, and I let myself live my life without judging another person, and you lived your life without judging me, and we can live on the same block, and you can paint your house whatever freaking color you want. And if you want to be, married to this person and live your life this way and talk this way, but you don't take that lifestyle and force me to live that lifestyle, and I don't take my lifestyle and force you to live that lifestyle, we would live in a less chaotic place and a more respectful, kind world. Mm-hmm. So I think when these decisions of what is your truth, I think is an individual idea of what works for me and my family. What works for me in my religious belief. Now, the silo might be a community where it's a synagogue or a church or a mosque or, a community center or a sport team that you love, right? No one questions that
speaking of religions.
Right, the Raiders wore, fans used to wear crazy outfits. No one's like, oh, that's not normal. Yeah, it's fine. It was totally fine. Everyone's like, go them, hooray, they were big fans. No one questioned that. So if we lived in our own siloed world for our belief systems and our values, and we didn't try to force other people to believe that or live that, and we were kind and compassionate to someone else's life, it would be less chaotic. Now, unfortunately, we end up then getting groups, and then the groups hate on other groups, and we always just sociologically, from a scientific perspective, we end up fighting the other people. We end up fighting others.
Tribalism.
We don't respect. Yep. It's a great book, Tribe, right? Tribalism. We end up doing that.
Yep.
So I like that theory, right? What works for me and my family does not work for you. I should not be telling you how to raise your kids as a parent. If you come to me as a professional, I'll give you professional help, not personal help. Right? So everyone stop having opinions about other people and telling them what to do. It's just tiring. Because what works for your kids, Clint, won't work for my kids. And that's great. Yep. They're your kids. They're not mine.
Yeah.
So I think we get too bogged into that, like, my opinion versus your opinion. I'm going to tell you how to live your life. I think it's...
Oh, I agree, man. I think, again, it's the fringes that cause the problems for most of us, right? It's like, just like we talked about, it's the fringe religious people who have a, client come in and they're doing something they don't agree, and they're like, hey, that's sinful, or that's broken, or that's this. It's like, well, that's a bad idea to do for anybody. You can give options. Yeah. You can say, hey, well, the research shows this. Some people I've seen that done this way and this way. You're going to have to find what's best for you. And let's talk about if that's best for you. And I'm going to be in relationship with you as you figure that out. And you'll figure out real quickly whether that's best for you and your family or not. And I'll keep being in relationship with you as you figure it out. But I'm going to point out to you the discrepancies and the incongruence, right? I mean, I think that's health all the way around. If you come in my office and you say, yeah, I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus, and I believe, he died for our sins, and I believe he loves me unconditionally. And then every time you come in, you're telling me I'm a piece of crap, I'm unworthy, I'm broken, I can't believe I did this thing 15 years ago. Then we're going to talk about the tension of the truth of that thing that you say you believe that you're not acting out of.
Yeah.
But that's not me pushing my religion on you. That's if you came in and said, I believe that trees are going to grow candy canes one day if I'll just be nice to everybody, right? And then the next day you're really mean to everybody and say, hey, man, you must not care about the candy canes because you're doing the opposite of what you're saying you actually believe is good for the world. And so, yeah, I think it gets real messy when people judge other people. And I'll touch on that. I think people misunderstand the idea of judgment too. Like me saying, hey, this doesn't look like a good idea for you, or research shows, or in experience, this thing can go badly, is not me saying, I think you have less worth and value, which in my opinion is what judgment is. Judgment is, I see your behavior and I judge your heart and your worth and your value to me.
Mm-hmm.
But me looking at your behavior and saying that might not be healthy is not me judging who you are as a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
But so many people are like, oh, well, you said, you and Ellie were talking about this and y'all were being real sexist, or you were being real this because you said this. And it's like, no, I didn't say you were less than because we have these beliefs. I said, I don't think these behaviors are helpful and healthy. And it's like now everything that is just a hypothesis about something is a judgment of your character and morality.
Yeah. 100% agree. It's so many things intertwined that you're gonna get me in trouble. I'm gonna talk forever.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. I appreciate you talking about all this stuff, and like we said, I love talking to you, because, and I love the stuff you do, and because we're such a common thread, and it's so rare to find somebody who thinks the same way in the same spectrum from a faith background, and is trying to figure this stuff out, man. Because they're especially, I mean, I don't know about you, but being a Christian counselor and understanding trauma and psychology, there's not like really a pathway. There's not a really good pathway to figure out how to do this and have these conversations in the right way. There are pathways to do it very poorly and wrong and get in trouble. But I think doing it in the right way is hard.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So
and it's good to find other men that are, in this world and doing the work as well.
Absolutely, man. Well, any closing thoughts, comments, things you want to tell the world?
I just think that if you need help, really try. Don't be afraid to look and fight for your health. Whatever that means. That means looking, searching, being comfortable with someone. But remember, you have to be in charge of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the one to make that effort. No one else is going to make it happen.
That's right.
If someone pushes you to therapy, it's not going to help as much. You have to be the power and control of your own destiny and your own journey. And just please be kind to yourself and be kind to the people in your life, because life is very limited. Life is very short. And it's too precious to waste on stupid things.
Yeah, man.
So connect to your loved ones, connect to something bigger than yourself. Try to find fulfillment in your daily life, and hopefully that breeds a place that is happy, joyous, and fulfilling, where you wake up every day pretty proud of the life that you have.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate you, Ellie. And sorry I butchered and said Eli in the beginning, even though I told myself 4 times not to say Eli when I was getting on here. So,
hey, I had some on my show a while back that she reminded me right before we spoke, and I still did it.
Yep. Yeah. Everybody will forgive us, I'm sure. As long as you do, I'm good.
I'm good.
Find you at The Dude Therapist. That's your podcast. And then they can find you on Instagram. What else do you got that they can find you on?
Well, I offer parenting and relationship coaching, and I also offer therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy, working on some courses that I can't promise will come out anytime soon, because I'm doing it on my own time. Yeah. Whenever it comes out, that's when it's going to come out. You can find that on my website, Eli Weinstein, LCSW.com. And if I also offer speaking engagements, so if you want me to come out to your area to speak about relationship work, parenting work, or anxiety work, or anything you want me to tailor it to, I'm pretty good at tailoring speeches to what is needed and what would be helpful. Please just reach out and see what I can do. Yeah, man. Well, we're going to do a collab. I know we were messaging about it earlier, but I'd love to do some more conversation with you about faith and mental health, and maybe just do a little series for people, because I think there's a lot of people, love that, faith-based people and also professionals who are trying to thread the needle on some of this stuff. But man, we just have so much baggage in our culture around fear. And I think you're one of those men that, that I see that is living his faith out. And it's not just a thing that you're doing, and it's not just a thing that's on the side, and it's not just culturally relevant. And I hope that I am that same way. And so I think we could do a lot of good together. So I look forward to that. And I hope our listeners get excited about that. So check Ellie out, and man, thank you, and God bless everybody, and have a good week. Good job, man. That was fun.